Welcome to r/best of Redditor updates, where OP's husband hires an escort while OP is getting surgery in the hospital. Our next Reddit post is from r/relationships. Me and my husband have been married for 2 years. We were together for 2 years before that. For the most part, it seemed like everything's been great. We both work a lot, but we made our relationship work. Over the summer, I was admitted to the hospital for surgery on my colon. Because of complications after my surgery, I was stuck in the hospital for over a month. Once I got home, it took me some time to recover and get back to how I was physically before my surgery. During this time, me and my partner didn't have much intercourse. I was in too much pain and couldn't do too much physically, though I did try to satisfy him other ways. This was tough on both of us because we were used to doing it frequently. He did express his frustration more than once, but I thought that we'd done a good job communicating and working through it. We're back to our normal routine now, and I honestly thought the hospital bills were going to be more stress on both of us than this. Well, Saturday night, my husband went out with one of our friends, Greg. Greg's wife, another one of our friends, just had a baby around Thanksgiving and was stuck in the hospital because the baby was born too early and needed to be in an incubator. Greg had been really stressed lately, so my husband took him out for a drink just to get out and de-stress. Greg called me yesterday. Apparently, they got really drunk and started talking about how Greg wouldn't be having intercourse for a while. And my husband said that he could always hire an escort, and that my husband did that when I was in the hospital. Greg just went along with it at the time, but he thought that he should tell me. I didn't really trust Greg at first, and thought that he might have misheard or was lying. But why would he even lie about that anyways? I went through all of our old credit card statements and financials and found a large cash withdrawal around the time that I was in the hospital. That still didn't mean much, so I asked my husband about it and lied and said that I was getting stuff together to talk to a financial advisor. He said he had to pay for a car repair in cash because our card wasn't working, but it was working fine everywhere else. I just don't know if I believe that, especially because we always use the same place for our car repairs, and we've always used the same card for it. I could contact them, but I have no idea if they remember. This is just all so confusing. I can't believe he would cheat on me like that. We were planning on trying for a baby soon, but I don't want to bring a pregnancy into this if he's cheating on me. I just don't know what to do from here. Then 5 days later, OP posted an update. For those of you talking about bro code, it wouldn't apply here. Greg and Emily were my friends before I even met my husband. I knew them both in college. I was actually a bridesmaid at their wedding and the godmother of their newest baby. And the reason I didn't go out for drinks with them was because I was watching their 2 other children. So it'd be like breaking the bro code if Greg didn't tell me, kind of. Anyway, I stopped by the car repair place that we always go to, the one he said he used when I was in the hospital. They had no record of working on our car at that time. Not even a tire change or oil change or axle adjustment or anything. So my husband was definitely lying about it because they said at that price they'd always have some sort of record. I went to confront him the other night. Long story short, he didn't deny any of it. He fessed up to hiring the escort and to doing it with her. He said it wasn't cheating because it was a service. Not like he fell in love with another woman, it was just intercourse. I also asked him about sexually transmitted diseases, and he said he didn't even think of that. So off I go to get tested because of my husband's stupidity and cheating. I should say my future ex-husband, though. I can't trust him, and the fact that he didn't think he did anything wrong disgusts me. Once he knew that I knew, he wasn't even defensive anymore. He wasn't sad or angry. He just seemed like he didn't even care. Like he was apathetic about our whole marriage. Everything I thought I knew about him was wrong, and I'm trying to figure out how he tricked me so well. I called a divorce lawyer, and I'm currently staying in our guest room because I don't even want to look at him. I'm going to see the lawyer next Wednesday and figure out where to go from there. Oh, also, I got Greg a thank you gift. He's now subscribed to Meat of the Month for a whole year. I like this top comment from Bug Hunter. OP's colon surgery leads to getting rid of a massive turd. True! Our next Reddit post is from r/relationships. My 18-year-old daughter blames me and my husband for ruining her book. My daughter Sarah, who's 18, is currently at college. A few months ago, she came to me and told me she was writing a book. She loves writing, and she seemed very excited about the book, telling me constantly the word count and how many pages, the character development, etc. She told me not to tell my husband, her father, James, because he can be very controlling and she wanted it to be a surprise. She came home for a visit 3 weeks ago, telling me that she finally finished the book and that it was 250 pages. She told both of us. She sent James the book. He wakes up much earlier than she does, about 4 a.m., while she wakes up at noon. And during this time, when he read the first chapter, he rewrote it and told me that it would be an entirely new story. He told me that he didn't like the original first chapter, and that was why he rewrote the story. When she woke up, he told her about his rewrite and how he had a new, amazing book. Sarah has a terrible temper, and she got upset, telling him that she wanted him to read her story and that she didn't want a new story. He got upset at her in turn, telling her that she wasn't even giving his story a chance. Of course, I was in the middle. Sarah was demanding I read her story, and James was demanding I read his first chapter. I read the chapter that James had rewrote and confessed that I wasn't a fan of it. Sarah was furious that he hadn't bothered to read the rest of the story, and like I said, she has a bad temper. So she told him that she hated the rewrite. He stormed off to his room, and I didn't see him for the rest of the day. Sarah decided to leave to go back to college, as it was Sunday. In the morning, James sent Sarah this email, which he also forwarded to me. From now on, I would ask that you not show me any of your writing or ask for any help editing anything. I am sure that by now you and Ma have discussed our problem, and I no longer want to be involved in your writing in any way. Please see Ma for your future editing needs. By the way, the story you wrote is a ripoff of such and such TV show, and is trite and poorly written. It would need a major rewrite if you wanted to do anything with it, and as I said, I will not be the one to rewrite it. Sarah and James are currently not speaking. James and I argue a lot, so our relationship is basically fine. He just doesn't mention Sarah. He feels as though he is the wronged party here because, and I quote, "we didn't give his story a chance." I tried to read Sarah's book, but I must confess that I found the first chapter a little hard to get through too, so I stopped reading and I told Sarah this. I told Sarah that I wasn't a fan of fiction and that it was hard for me to read books. She called me crying and told me that she worked for months on this book and was so excited about it, and that she wanted her parents to support her on it. She told me that I treated her like I would treat a stranger on the street, and I didn't even try to read past the first chapter. I told her I'd try to read it again, and she said don't bother, that the project is ruined, and that she won't be working on a second draft. I feel like the bad guy here, and I don't know how to proceed. Should I try to read the book, or give it up like she said? Should I be speaking to my husband, or should I just let it go? In an edit, OP shares an email that her daughter sent to her father. If that's what you really want, I'll give it to you. I believe that my writing has been the source of too many of our fights. I feel sad that you've said these things in anger, because I think you'll look back on them and regret it. This is why I won't say anything in anger now. Because in 20 years, I don't want to be lying awake at night, remembering the cruel things that I've said to you. I think I realize, after too many fights, that time makes you forget what the fights were about. But the things you say, they stick. They stay under your skin. I would concede every fight I've ever had with anybody if I could just take those cruel words back. This isn't worth it, and you know it deep down. I could get angry at you, but the truth is, there's nobody else in the world who's my dad. And I'm thankful that you're still here and that I am too. I'm sorry I said things that made you upset. It wasn't my intention. Then OP shares the email that the dad sent back. I spent a good 8 hours editing that chapter. I've now made those chapters much, much better. When I showed you the first chapter, instead of acting like I did a good thing, you slammed the door. Is this how you react to people who try to help you? You need to get into another field, one where you're not so invested in the sacredness of what you say and how you say it. I am done. Then the next day, OP posted another update. I decided to apologize to Sarah again. Since she told me explicitly not to look at the book, I wanted to tell her that I want to read the book and discuss it with her so that she would give the okay. I tried to call her last night. She didn't answer. She might have been out. So I wrote an email apologizing and telling her that I really wanted to read her book because I knew that I was missing out. She called me this afternoon and told me basically that I was too late. She said that she had apologized to James and tried to appeal to me, and both times it was a mistake. She also said something about how she didn't believe I wanted to really read it, and she wasn't going to let me just so that I would feel better. She told me not to bother calling again and hung up. I apologized and she didn't forgive me. This is the first time she's never been with us for Easter. I read all of the comments here and I don't want to lose her, but I can't control my husband. I can only control myself. I don't know what else to do because I'm pretty sure she's done with us. So I think we can all agree that James is a real scumbag of a human being. What is this guy's issue? Is he jealous? His daughter wrote a book and he doesn't want to be one-upped, so he tries to write a chapter to be like, hey, look, isn't mine better than yours? How do you feel about that? What a weirdly petty and stupid thing to do. And then OP is acting like the victim as well, like she's caught in the middle, when clearly, objectively, there's a right person and the wrong person here. And she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Well, okay, how about support your daughter because your daughter literally didn't do anything wrong? And how about criticize your husband because your husband's a piece of trash? Man, I literally can't understand what did he want to happen? For her to say, wow, your chapter is so much better than my chapter. Let me just throw my book in the trash and then let's read your book instead. I guess, is that the goal? Is that his hope? OP also says that her daughter has a temper. I honestly don't believe that. I think that what probably is happening here is that James has very normal emotional reactions to her scumbag of a father. And because OP never takes her daughter's side, she interprets that as, oh, she's just being emotional. She has a temper. Nah, man, she just doesn't like to be treated like trash. Our next Reddit post is from r/am I overreacting. My significant other recently told me about a situation at their job. A coworker accidentally left behind a food item and asked another coworker to drop it off at their house. Not that it really matters, but thankfully the food item was sealed and unopened. My significant other suggested dunking the item in a public restroom toilet as a joke before returning it. The other coworker actually did it, and the item was given back without the person knowing. My significant other told me the story like it was funny. I was disturbed. It feels immature at best and unethical at worst. Just because no one technically likes this coworker, that doesn't justify doing what they did. Since starting this job, I feel like my significant other's maturity level has regressed significantly. I'm losing respect and questioning our future over the shift that I'm seeing. Am I overreacting to see this as a serious character issue? Also, for context, OP has kids with their partner. Then, the next day, OP posted an update. Hours after calmly explaining how this behavior could affect our family, it was acknowledged. Then, hours later, my partner completely dismissed what I said, and, in writing, sent a message to another coworker higher up than them about wanting to knock that same coworker's teeth out of their mouth. The immaturity is beyond repair. I plan on sitting my partner down tonight and potentially discussing a trial separation until they can get their act together. I'm officially done. Then, 2 days later, OP posted an update. No amount of me calmly explaining or simplifying how inappropriate his behavior has been since starting this new job has made him understand. I had a very blunt and direct conversation with my significant other about how unacceptable his actions were at work. As expected, he deflected and made excuses. I shut that down immediately. Here's the excuses he gave. He was on the clock, but the coworker who actually tampered with the food was off the clock. The coworker who followed through has a mental disability and took the joke too seriously. His head boss talks like that all the time, so he didn't see the harm in doing the same. The coworker whose food was tampered with is an alleged drug user, so he feels no empathy towards them. Other coworkers were also suggesting ways to tamper with the food. None of this changes the fact that this happened at work. None of it changes the fact that he's the sole provider for our family and our children. None of it excuses risking our financial security over middle school level behavior. Since starting this job, this level of immaturity has come out of nowhere. What concerns me the most is that he doesn't fear consequences because he believes this coworker will never find out. He doesn't believe there will be any professional repercussions. He doesn't know that when I'm financially able to, I plan to inform the employee about what happened. I've sacrificed everything to be a stay-at-home mother. I don't have my own income. I don't have a village. So for him to claim the weight of being the sole provider while actively putting our livelihood at risk feels like a slap in the face. My focus is on my children. I said what I needed to say. What he chooses to do from here will determine his own future. I made it clear that this behavior is divorce-worthy. I cannot leave immediately because I will not make my children homeless, but I am done tolerating this. I'll find a way to create income and stability for myself, one way or another. This post is messed up in a lot of ways. The one that kind of stuck out to me for some reason is when he said that the coworker who followed through has a mental disability and he took the joke too seriously as like an excuse. That's not an excuse. That actually makes it worse, doesn't it? Manipulating/tricking a mentally disabled coworker into, I don't know, maybe committing a crime with someone else's food, and he thinks that fact makes it better, more excusable. That was r/best of Redditor updates, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.